Hey guys, Lytane here, and when I started planning my Tarzan in June month, I thought I knew everything that I was going to talk about, but the games have surprised me. I didn't even know that these existed. So it's time to have a look at one of them, Tarzan Untamed, and see if it's worth it. Tarzan and June. Tarzan Untamed, or Freeride depending on where you live, was released in 2001 for both the PlayStation 2 and the Gamecube. So far as I can tell, both versions are the same, aside from some slight graphical tweaks. The game was made by Ubisoft, the same people that make Rayman and Assassin's Creed, so a very impressive company. Set in the same universe as the Tarzan shows and movies, this is set sometime after the movie, where Jane and Tarzan are having fun in the jungle. It seems like that's the start of a lot of the Tarzan sequels, but then they find a gorilla in a cage. Uh-oh, that can only be trouble. From there, Tarzan decides to investigate and he finds Oswald Gardner, a shady man that is just doing evil things. He sees Tarzan as a missing link and wants to capture him and take him back to England to become rich and famous. So we will have to put a stop to him and his goons while surfing, skiing, and bungee jumping. Wait, how would any of that help? Tarzan Untamed is a 3D platformer, except I would say it's more like a 2.5D game. Even though you have a lot of control over Tarzan in these open sections, a lot of the game is quite linear along trees and walkways where you can't fall off. Very much like a 2.5D game. In fact, it reminds me a lot of the PlayStation 1 version with this style. The game controls a little bit strangely when you first pick it up. You can move Tarzan well enough, and he can also jump, has a 3-hit combo when standing, squatting, and a cartwheel attack when he moves. He can pick up spears to throw, climb walls, and slide on surfaces. Oh, and a dedicated yell button. I'm not sure why, but you can do it whenever you want, and it's useless 99% of the time. But it's there. The graphics for the game are actually pretty good. Tarzan looks like Tarzan, and he actually has eyes this time. The jungle has a lot of different looks to it depending on which area you are in. So when you're in the swamp, the colors are a lot different from when you're in just the regular jungle. It's not all great though, because some of the models are pretty horrible. Like, look at these bushes. I mean, come on, really? Also, the animation for the gorillas talking is really odd. When not in the jungle, there is a variety here to see, with caves, rapids, and lakes. I think it's a pretty good looking PS2 game, with some silly parts like Terk standing on the edge of a tree here. Oh man, it could have done with a little bit more polish. The main type of level is the exploration type one, which has you mostly running away from a fixed camera, jumping to new platforms, swinging on vines, climbing and sliding. I would say that Ubisoft were really trying to capture the speed and movement of the movie, that kinetic energy and excitement that you get from going through the jungle. So for a lot of this game, you can hold up or whichever direction to keep the speed going and just jump to the next platform. These all chain together well, and I really did get the feel of being Tarzan. I felt like I owned this jungle, and speeding through the levels was pretty fun. There are some slow parts for sure, but overall, the flow of these levels, fantastic. But we have a few other types of levels in this game. The first is the surfing level. While there are only 2 of them, they are very difficult. The controls feel very unresponsive, and trying to avoid hazards feels almost impossible at times. To make it even harder is the lack of checkpoints. You have to do the whole thing in one life, which can be very difficult. And this is the second level in the game. I've seen many people give up when playing this level, and I fully get why. While I can reliably do the levels now, it did take a little bit of getting used to, and even then I'm just good at finishing the levels, nothing else. The next type of level is the water ski type, and this works very well. It still has that slippery feel found in the surfing levels, but instead of it being unresponsive, it works really good here because you have a stalk pulling you along, so now you only have to control the left and right movements of your character. You'll have to jump over hazards and dodge things, and there are logs to grind, but it isn't nearly as hard, and it's a lot more fun to play than the surfing levels. These also don't have any checkpoints, which can cause some difficulty. There's also a mini level with the bungee jump challenges. You jump off an impossibly high point and must avoid all of the obstacles on your way down. If you manage to dodge them all, you get the grand prize, the respect of the gorillas. That can be used to discover new paths in older levels, but I'll talk about that a little later. The first two aren't hard at all, but the third took me quite a few tries. Also, this doesn't make sense as my vine would totally get caught on the obstacle just after I cleared it, but you know, whatever, video game logic. Lastly, we have a few boss battles, and they all function the exact same way. You mash the attack button to reveal a combination, and then you have to put that in to win. You need to mash that button pretty hard and fast as well. But aside from that, that's all there is to the boss battles. So a surprise to me was soon into the game you find a film canister that Terk says might be important. This is the main collectible in the game with 8 in every level. They can be anywhere, but you'll most likely see 95% of them on the main path, and they aren't too hard to get. The surfing levels are the hardest due to the janky controls, but I'm sure you can do it. Now, I'm the kind of person in a collectathon that will go out of my way to try and find everything. So the exploration levels must be done a minimum of twice, once along the main path and then a second time using the optional routes that you get from winning the bungee challenges. So that's what the iconic yell is for, deafening the gorillas so they'll try and get rid of you. I'm so glad we have a dedicated button for this. So a film reel will be on each of these new paths, and once again, they're not hard to find. They even stay counted if you die or quit a level, so you could take a bonus path and get the reel, die, then take the normal path and get the reel on that one if you wanted to try and save some time. What's strange is after the second boss, you are locked out of progressing in the game as you need to find Jane and Tantor, who are going to the elephant graveyard. Porter figures out that the cameraman may have filmed the event and you need to find his reels to reveal the way. So these reels weren't optional at all. Out of the 50 available at this point in the game, you need to get 45 of them, which is pretty crazy. I watched a few reviews online before writing the script and people complained about this quite a bit, and while gating progression is really stupid, I don't think it was that bad. Like I said, most of these reels are on the main path, and going through the level a second time to go through the optional routes will yield the other ones. The skiing ones aren't so bad to get, and the surfing ones are the hardest, but not impossible. If you get all of the others, you only need 3 in the surfing level. Doing this will open the rest of the levels until you get to the end of the final level where the way is blocked. Now you have to do that last bungee challenge to get the baboon's help in order to find another way out of the cave. It tries to make it feel like there's alternate ways through the game and that there's more to it, but it's pretty shallow. Then we have to fight the final boss with the mashing skills of a crazy man and some awkward animation or two when you aren't fast enough with the button presses. Then boom, the end. So all of that took me just over 2 hours. Yeah, so that's one of the biggest problems with this game, the length. I finished the game in just over 2 hours, and I went out of my way to get all the film reels as well. There are just way too few levels, even though you have to go through them multiple times if you want to get 100%. This is not to say it's an easy completion, as I died a lot of times in this game. There are many unfair moments and parts where I died due to poor triggering, but with enough perseverance, you can definitely get through it. With all of the film reels, you do unlock the documentary that Gardner was making, and it's pretty funny. It also seems to use some footage from the beta version of the game, as some elements are a little bit different here. Question though, with only one camera, how did they film the camera? Or even get these like really big long panning shots. I really liked it and I thought it was a good reward though. But that's not the whole game, as Terk does have some challenges for us. There are 3 types. The first is a time trial where you have to finish the level as quick as you can, and if you beat Terk, you get a star. The second is a point scoring challenge, so when you're sliding or swinging or skiing or surfing, you can do tricks. These are not needed in the game at all before you go for these challenges. But if you were to get 5,000 points at any time in a main level, you'd get a life, which is nice, I guess. So now you have to learn the moves that will score you points. Also, you can't jump while performing these, so just make sure you aren't close to a cliff. Doing both of these in a stage will unlock the final challenge, the Time Trial Trick Challenge, the ultimate challenge. In this, you need to finish the level as quickly as possible whilst getting enough points to beat Terk. I didn't do any of them. So I looked up what you get for finishing these, and you unlock other characters to use in the surfing and skiing sections. Jane, Porter, and Terk. I mean, that's fun, but it's kind of pointless. It's really great to see Porter in the game though, but why would you want to grind these out? You can only use these characters to play the same levels again. I mean, maybe you want to beat your scores, but I think most people won't go that far. I know I didn't. Which is a shame, because I could see this adding another few hours to the game. It would still be a ridiculously short experience, but it would have extended it a little bit. The last things I want to touch upon are the FMVs and the music. The story videos are fun and are a nice way to link each level together. Oh, like that poor bird. Also, Porter discovers this strange thing in the jungle and you never find out what it is. Why even have that in the game? They even got Tony Goldwyn to voice Tarzan, which is pretty cool. Also, Nigel Hawthorne reprises his role as Porter, which I found out was one of his last roles because he passed away, and that makes me really sad. I love Porter. Then we have the music, and I'm in two worlds about this. On one, it's very percussive and fits the jungle theme very well. It puts me really into the mood, but on the other hand, it's pretty generic and most of the songs sound similar. So it does its job, but it's not spectacular. In my opinion, Tarzan Untamed is not worth it, because the game is just way too short without a whole lot to do. The controls always feel janky and the surfing levels are particularly bad. The trick system is underutilized and the story is so shallow that I'm not even sure why they bothered putting one in the game. The thing is though, while I don't recommend the game, I actually had a lot of fun playing it. Running through the jungle as Tarzan, feeling that mastery over the world, and those skiing levels were great. It is not a good game by any means, but if you can look past some of its flaws and want a distraction for a couple of hours, maybe go check it out. I know, this is the worst rating in the history of my channel. It's fun, but don't play it. Oh, I'm so sorry. But let me know what you guys thought of Tarzan Untamed. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you get stuck on the surfing levels? And did you ever get that 100% completion with the challenges? I couldn't be bothered. But don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!